Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
And we are back broadcasting live for ATDC Radio. This is the home stretch. This is our final episode today, Lee, right?
The headliners.
Hey, this is going to be such a fantastic segment. Please join me in welcoming to the broadcast Startup Catalyst in the healthcare technology vertical, Mr. Kirk Barnes. How are you, man?
Outstanding. Good afternoon.
Well, Kirk, before we get too far into things, can you talk a little bit about the healthcare tech catalyst role? How are you serving people? Who are you serving?
Sure.
That.
So
overview.
In my role as a startup catalyst here at ATDC, we basically help entrepreneurs throughout the entire state of Georgia learn how to scale and launch technology businesses. And so as we have 4 different verticals here, healthcare is my area of expertise, which we launched this vertical about a year ago. So I help entrepreneurs have anything healthcare related as far as technology, launch their business, scale it, help them find connections, resources, coach them, sometimes therapists, but all the above.
Now, how'd you get into this? Were you part of a startup that exited? How'd you get involved with ATDC?
It was it did stem from a career in healthcare in the pharma biotech space. Then I was at a nanotechnology startup out of Northwestern University, and through multiple connections, ended up being connected here to ATDC, where I was a volunteer mentor for a couple of years, and then was asked to come on staff a couple of years ago.
And then, what were you envisioning as the role of a catalyst?
Wow, that's when I first got into it as, being a mentor beforehand, I thought it was really just helping entrepreneurs with any type of business ideas or just things that can help their business grow. But as you get into it, it's really learning everything that we can do to help entrepreneurs succeed. So sometimes it's helping them learn how to hire the right people. Sometimes it's helping them with business strategy. Sometimes it's helping with introductions and connections. And usually it comes down to the 2 C's, cash and cash. Cash and connections. Right. You're exactly right.
So now in your role in these other firms, was it in the technology side or business development?
More so in the business development, sales, marketing, and I like to say I haven't been on the legal, finance, or the technical side, so more on the business side of things.
So now how are you fitting in here? There's a lot of techie people in this room.
Yes, exactly. So I'm the least technical person in the room. I know enough to be dangerous. I think, having a career selling highly technical things allows me to at least talk the talk. And I like to say I'm a mile wide and an inch deep. Uh-huh. So at least allows me to have some, pretty intellectual conversations with a wide variety of people.
Now, when you're dealing with these startups, what are you seeing some common threads, some common challenges that they all have? Sure.
I think, for any kind of startup, as we have many here at ATDC, the challenges, very rarely is it just the technology itself. It's how do you package it? How do you articulate clearly what the product is and ultimately get customers? I think for healthcare startups, it's even more difficult because you have regulation. It's a, very difficult and lengthy sales process where, if you just have an app that you're going to help people find sports, that's pretty, don't say easy, but it's doable. But in the regulatory space, you're dealing with patients, their lives and regulation and insurance, and it makes the sales cycle sometimes 18 to 24 months.
Now, when you're working with some of these technology-driven firms, how much of your time is spent kind of getting them to, I don't want to say dumb it down, but to just make it so a lay person that could be the buying decision person can understand it and really embrace it?
That's a great question, and it's one of those things I probably spend maybe half my time is helping entrepreneurs learn how to articulate their message to the right audience. Like sometimes people don't need to know, the audience doesn't need to know, don't need to know all of the specifics about their technology, right? They just need to know, how does it help me solve the problem that I have? And that will look different when you talk to a CEO versus a CFO versus the technical person.
Or the doctor.
Or the doctor themselves. You're exactly right. And sometimes if it's the doctor or the nurse, how do you help them understand how to articulate that to patients, right? So you're right. It's helping that very technical founder learn how to translate their technology to a language and that can be understood by their respective audience.
Now, when you start having those conversations, do you find that they're open to that kind of coaching, or do they feel like this is something they got already and they don't need your kind of help?
It depends. I think the first time we have those discussions, and if a company doesn't listen to me, and they go and they have a meeting and it flops, then they'll come back and say, well, let's try it your way.
Right.
So
coachable moment then, right?
Exactly. So, but I think most of the companies that are at ATDC and are in this type of ecosystem understand that if they really had it all figured out, they wouldn't be here.
Yeah, they wouldn't need ATDC.
Exactly.
Now, you believe, I guess, healthcare startups are a little different than other startups here because of the regulation. Right. You think that's the biggest difference?
Absolutely. I think the regulation and sometimes, in many instances, the consumer or the person that ends up using the product is not the same person that pays for the product.
Right. So
when you ask a healthcare startup, who's your customer? There's the famous marketing answer. It depends, right? It depends on who's going to use it versus who's going to pay for it. So, and that can vary from state to state, from city to city. Even, a hospital across the street from one another will have completely different processes. So I think that's what makes it so challenging. If you sold to one hospital, you sold to one hospital.
Right. That's not scalable.
Exactly.
Now, what about with all the political ramifications of healthcare in America? How does that come into play?
Yeah, that's a loaded question. I'll stay.
I mean, it just adds more kind of things you don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? And I think there's the other component, that having to stay abreast of political issues and also who's running office, that may sway the way that policies are going to dictate what gets covered and reimbursed. And so if you have a business that's built around a disease state that may change with the next leadership or the next person that comes in office, how that procedure is reimbursed, and they decide not to reimburse it, then
you might be out of business.
That could kill your business. You're exactly right. Exactly right.
So now those are some of the things that I guess you have to at least address, but it may not be a deal killer, because they could go, look, we'll wait 4 years and someone else will be in office, right?
Exactly right.
And the timeline could work in their favor, because by the time it gets through all the regulations and approvals.
Right. Yeah. And I think that, to your point, so on top of building a business and, knowing your product, developing your product, getting customers, raising money, this is one where you also have to understand who's in office, who are writing the laws, what those laws are, how are they going to change. So that's another dynamic and complexity to being in healthcare as well.
Right, that other startups aren't really having to deal with. So now, who'd you bring with you today?
I brought with me, we just recently announced one of our latest partnerships to ATDC. So we launched the vertical last year with our partner NASCO, that's based in Sandy Springs, Georgia, that's in the health insurance space. And we have another strategic partnership with Navicent Health, that's now part of Atrium Health in the Carolinas. And we just last week announced our partnership with the Morehouse School of Medicine. And so I have Arletha Williams that's here with me. Arletha.
Hello, everyone.
Well, Arletha, tell us about your work at Morehouse.
Well, I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Family Medicine. I'm also director of our Innovation Learning Laboratory for Population Health. I'm an instructor in the graduate program for biotechnology. And most recently, I will be the ATDC liaison.
So now, how do you see this relationship growing and building?
Oh, yeah. So we're very excited at Morehouse School of Medicine, obviously. So we are interested in having our faculty members connected to ATDC to be able to help focus on commercialization of our researchers' health tech discoveries and growing an entrepreneurship ecosystem at Morehouse School of Medicine.
So to get the kind of people in the medical field to think more like an entrepreneur?
Exactly.
That's part of it?
Exactly.
And then to immerse themselves in the kind of the ATDC ecosystem will help kind of accelerate that, you think?
Yes, exactly.
So now, was there a clamoring from the folks at Morehouse to say, you know what, we would like to do more entrepreneurial things. Can you help us do that? And is that where the the partnership at least began?
Yeah. So, I mean, we have a history. So we have our Morehouse School of Medicine clinics. And in those clinics, we see about 3 million office visits per year. And we also see about 45 million in grants and contracts in research revenue. So we already have researchers or, faculty members. We, doing healthcare research, we have about 500 students, 150 residents, and about 300 clinical faculty. So of that, we have over 200 patents protecting 25 technologies that are targeting health inequities. So it's something that we were already doing, on, a large scale. However, our faculty and staff really wanted to learn, how to commercialize the research, that they are doing, their discoveries, the things that they're learning while they're in the community, while they are participating in the advancement of health equity.
So now, talk to me how it's going to play out in real life. So you're a Morehouse researcher. Mm-hmm. How does that person plug into the ATDC ecosystem now?
Right. So we have an Office of Translational Technology. It's headed by Dr. James Lillard. And so if a faculty member or, student are interested in either commercializing a discovery that they already have or, kind of just interested in, learning more about entrepreneurship, they would visit our office and we would talk to them, about their interests. And then they would also sign up for ATDC's Educate program.
Right.
And then Kirk, so you would be kind of a bridge too, so that when they got here, then you would kind of get involved and to help them, create a minimum viable product and do all the startup-y things that a person with an idea, maybe it's a medical device or whatever it is, to help them commercialize it.
Exactly right. I think that, what we have is being part of the Educate membership allows them access to our curriculum, even our other mentors that extend our coaching staff beyond what we have on staff at ATDC. And also just a lot of the other strategic partners that we have, the different corporations we work with, other health systems that we work with. And even as Arletha and I were talking about, as we have classes that just help entrepreneurs in general, we also have classes that are healthcare specific. Mm-hmm. So we have classes that are taught, for example, like how do you navigate the regulatory process for a new medical device, or how do you strategically protect your intellectual property as a healthcare startup. So we have other classes and curriculum. And one of the big things we were talking about is we have a phenomenal resource here, Connie Castile, on staff that helps entrepreneurs identify the best kind of money. Right. Free money through grants. Grants. SBIR and STTR grants. And many times entrepreneurs have no idea that they're out there.
And even if they had an idea, they'd never be able to navigate it on their own.
You're exactly right.
And is that an area that this brings more resources to Morehouse, right? Is that part of this as well? Because now Morehouse, by extension, has access to all of this brain power here and the connections?
Yes, definitely. And that's part of the issue. So minorities and women, they lack access to startup capital and expertise. So the ATDC MSM partnership will help kind of change that disparity.
Mm-hmm. So is this a relationship that you just said, okay, we're going to start this relationship, or is this piloted for a period of time, or you're just going boldly forward?
We're married.
That's it. You're in now.
We're in. And I'll also throw in, I think the other side to Arletha's point is the physicians and the patients that they serve will also have access to a lot of the innovation that's here. So many times patients in underserved populations, they're not always on the receiving edge of cutting edge innovation, right? On the receiving end of it. And so this is another part of our this partnership where our entrepreneurs that are creating cutting edge technology can then bring that directly to the Morehouse School of Medicine clinics and put that in the hands of physicians that are treating their patients as well.
So it's from an ATDC standpoint, they're going to be able to leverage the resources of Morehouse as well. So it's symbiotic relationship.
Absolutely.
And then what's your dream of dreams? How does the story end?
Oh, our dream of dreams is to have our faculty members actually be able to commercialize their discoveries. So I have myself, and there are a few other faculty members who have been working, on different medical devices, curricula, wearables, and we just like to be able to actually commercialize them, so take them out of our heads and out of the lab,
right, into a store. Yeah. So now, Kirk, are you doing anything that's going to accelerate that? Is there a way to kind of jumpstart some of these? Because this has probably been brewing for a while that you're probably chomping at the bit to try to get some of this stuff going. Is there kind of a launch program to get some of this thing going?
So we actually have plans for a big launch event. But of course, right now during the summertime,
it's a little slow.
Right. So we'll wait for everybody to come back and have an official launch event. But even before the launch event, the conversations with Dr. Lillard and Arletha, we already have a few companies that are working together. We have a Dr. Hadia Green that has a technology using lasers and nanoparticles to cure cancer. And so she's actually one of the first nonprofit startups that's working here at ATDC as well. And then we have an ATDC company, Gavin Max, is working with Morehouse on some nutritional based startup around certain diseases like diabetes and heart disease, that's working with the clinicians at Morehouse as well. So we're already working towards working with one another, and I just expect that to accelerate.
So now, what caused you to create a formal kind of partnership rather than, I guess it was at least casual or was working a little bit?
Well, I think, what I've seen in healthcare, it is, I won't say impossible, but darn near impossible to do anything by yourself. And I think being in healthcare, particularly in Atlanta, I think is absolutely ridiculous to have, people in the same city that aren't working well together, and to be able to put some parameters around what that looks like why not, right? There's things that we go to the same conferences, we talk to the same people, we go to the same meetings, but people talk, but then nothing's actually done. So I think when you create a partnership like this, it kind of sets this expectation that this looks great on paper. Now, what are you going to do, especially in a public forum? And there's so much to gain from working closely with a great partner like Morehouse School of Medicine. And then is this type of collaboration, are you looking to create more of those? Yes, I think with the right partners, for example, if as we designed this healthcare vertical, we thought about having partners with organizations that are critical to startups to have access to. So in the payer space with insurers, right? So NASCO provides us access to payers like Anthem and Blue Cross plans across the country. We have a partnership with Navicent Health that helps us gain access to rural health in Middle Georgia, right, in their health system. And then now we're part of Atrium. They're part of Atrium, which is the 7th or 8th largest system in the country, that helps our entrepreneurs kind of expedite how they gain access to a health system. Morehouse School of Medicine brings a tremendous amount of resources to us from an R&D perspective, as well as working with, both rural and underserved populations as well. And then I think what you'll see in the future are partnerships with pharma, biotech companies, medical device companies, and even just some general technology companies as well. Is there a place for kind of these social impact organizations as well that are just trying to do good, but maybe don't have the ecosystem? Absolutely. I think it's interesting. Some of the social impact organizations, if you look at the market that they're going to help, they're usually the same type of market that is affected with large gaps in health disparities. So there's a lot of parallels and things that we can leverage from Arletha's network and my network of things we're doing that directly aligns well with some of the social impact startups as well. Now, Arletha, when you're looking at this kind of a partnership, do you put kind of timelines in place or milestones that you'd like to achieve? Are there goals that you want to achieve by a certain period of time?
Well, some of our goals really are just around getting our faculty involved. So that's the first step, really to kind of gauge the interest at Morehouse School of Medicine, which we know anecdotally is huge, but really to kind of gauge that and then to understand, what our faculty and our staff needs. For example, we have other partnerships that will also kind of come to bear, with the ATDC partnership. An example is the United Health Group announced a $8.25 million data science initiative partnership with the Atlanta University Center last week. And so again, our faculty are a part of that. And so I think that what you'll see is education and training for our faculty and our students in data science, and then be able to use that information, combine it with the health tech discoveries, and be able to leverage that, for more commercialization, of our ideas.
Now, is part of it also to help you attract talent into Morehouse by having this type of a connection to give them the talent to say, you know what, I'm going to pick Morehouse because I'm going to have access to the ATDC and that network as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I think that gives us, another little.
It's a point of differentiation, right?
Yes, exactly.
So now, Kirk, this thing just started. Are you going over there to do workshops, programs? Like how does it actually playing out in real life?
Yes to all the above.
Yeah, he's already been over there.
So been over there to give several talks throughout the last year. And so we are planning on looking at different ways that we can be heavily engaged and having even office hours with either myself or mentors or at ATDC.
And physically being there. Right,
there.
not just, we're a partner.
Right.
You can come here whenever you want, and then nothing changes, right? You're going to actually kind of boots on the ground.
Exactly. There. And we're just talking before we came in here about the first workshop that we want to do is bring Connie over to Morehouse to talk about the grants.
Program.
Exactly. So this isn't, again, from the beginning, we don't intend this just to look good on paper,
right? But
to actually, work and engage and have some, I think, sit down and create some goals for us to accomplish. But ultimately the goal is for, entrepreneurs to be successful in creating their business and getting them to the market and doing it the right way,
So now if a startup wants to learn more about your work as a catalyst, what's the coordinates to get a hold of you?
So they can go to atdc.org on their website, and I'm listed on the website, and they can email me there and follow up. And there's, we also have a calendar there with all our events for ATDC. So just feel free to go to atdc.org and check us out there.
And Arletha, if somebody wanted to get a hold of you, what are the best way?
Yep. So it's msm.edu/OTT.
And then they can find you there?
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you both for sharing your story today.
Thank you so much for having us.
All right. This is Lee Cantor for Stone Payton. We will see you all next time on ATDC Radio.